All right, so we would like to show how to add a dependency to your Spring Boot project from an existing API in Exchange, meaning let's say you've designed an API, you published it to Exchange, and then somebody is developing, I don't know, maybe a client for your API, and they're not doing it in MuleSoft, but just a Spring Boot application, and they would like to add a dependency to your API and also to maybe automatically generate stubs from the API with the Open API plugin. So how would we do that? As we can see, I do have an API here. It's already in Exchange. It's published. It's version 1.4. Stable, right, has multiple versions. So I am in this business group. It has an ID. And basically Exchange can act as a Maven repository. And let's see how I'm adding a dependency to this API to my project. So this is just like regular Spring Boot project. First thing I will do, right, so this one is how I add a dependency to that API. I'm specifying the group ID where the API resides. It's this one, right? Then the artifact ID. It's, well, basically this one. And the version, the classifier, so I would like to have a dependency as an Open API Spec, and type, I think it must be zip, I didn't see any other option. So this adding this dependency is basically almost the same as downloading the spec. So I originally created this API specification as Open API, hence the OS spec could be downloaded as is, a RAML could be generated. So let's download and see what's the content of it. Right, so we get a zip file, and if we unpack it, it has a Open API definition as is. So that's the YAML one, right? And it has an additional Exchange JSON file. These are details of this API in the right here in Exchange. All right, so what do we do with it here? So first, in order for Maven to download this dependency, it needs to know where to take it from. Hence, we need to specify a repository. Since I'm using shared Anypoint Exchange, well, actually, it's not shared. Hang on. No, it's not. Well, so this is kind of a generic URL, and then it dives into my business group. Right? So I'm specifying a repository URL, this one, and then it will dive into my business group. So that's fine. It doesn't have to be my private. Or if I'm using a private repository, right, then it has to be a private one. So that's one thing. And another thing, I need to authenticate against that Maven API. I'm doing this either with username password or with a client ID client secret combo. And right, the authentication settings, I won't show them, but they are in my settings XML of Maven. Right, I just won't open it because you will see them, but basically that's a standard way of how to configure credentials for any repository. So we need a dependency, we need a repository. Once this is done, let's show what's happening in my repository. Actually, this dependency will be downloaded. Let's verify it. Let's remove it. And right, let us rerun Maven sync. Right. So we are reloading dependencies, and you could see it's been downloaded from Maven. And what's downloaded is a zip file. And so, right, now as a next step, if I would like to use the YAML definition, which is in that zip file, I can use another Maven plugin, which will unpack that zip and will copy the unpacked resources into my source folder. So Maven dependency plugin can do this, and we'll configure it to hunt only that specific dependency, right? So, right, initialize phase is maybe not the right one, but for the purpose of this demo, it's doing the job. So we would like to unpack dependencies from dependencies of type OAS, right? So this one is matching this classifier. we would like to output the results into source main resources API. It would be here. Currently it's not here. And right, we don't need that JSON file. So for this to work, let's just fire Maven and see that it works. Where is my shell? Here. All right, so I think this should do. Right, let's just package everything and this initialize phase will fire. So, right, as you can see, we have a new folder here, and here is our specification. So as a next step, maybe during the, also during the next step, right, when I would like to build something after the initialize, I can use a Maven plugin. So here I can add an Open API plugin, which will generate the stubs for me. But well, right, the main purpose of this exercise was to see that we can have this dependency and automatically unpack the Open API Spec definition. And right, Torben, if you see this, I hope this helps you. Enjoy.